Yo, what's up guys, it's Dino and I'm gonna switch things up a bit. So before I continue, I want to shout out this comment from Layman's. His YouTube channel is Layman's Commentary. This guy literally has 4 times the amount of reach I have, so to be recognized is really honoring. So thank you. And I wanted to highlight that because it reminds me I'm not the only one thinking about this stuff. A lot of people are watching Classic closely right now. And with the playtest ending, this is where the real questions start. So now that the playtest is over, we're gonna hit a drought, and I'm at least expecting some kind of news by the end of the month. Definitely in March about the closed online test signups, and probably be getting invites towards the end of March. So in terms of the channel, I'm still gonna upload content weekly and talk about some of the things that are important to me when it comes to Classic. I might even dabble in Modern to compare and contrast some systems that may or may not work in Classic. So today, I want to explore monetization. Because it's Nexon, we know that monetization exists.
Hello, I like money.
The vibes, the grind, the party quests, the nostalgia, none of it matters if monetization feels like it's controlling progression. And sadly, we've just seen reports of this exact thing in Maplestory Idol, where they were caught, investigated, and even rated for algorithms that adjusted progression the more or less you paid. So in this video, I want to explore what I am okay with and what I'm not. And here's the tricky part. Old school Maple already had monetization back in the day. It just felt different. And since Nexon has already said this is going to be a modernized take on Classic, not a one-to-one skin, this is where the choices start to really matter. So first things first, disclaimer, I've never played past Big Bang after the potential system was added. I quit. I've tried to jump back into it, but it just never gave me that same feeling. But I have heard some of the pay to win aspects that Modern Maple currently has or had, and I think as a long-time old school Maple fan, some of those things won't fly in a Classic environment. Never mind the cubing fiasco, but things like vac pets for $100 is just, in my opinion, legalizing the old vac hack. That is just in no way, shape, or form needed in a Classic Maplestory environment. Old school Maple wasn't some pure untouched thing where nobody spent money. We had an X, which was like the currency that they used for monetized products. You had cosmetics, which is a core memory of mine, while adventuring, finding a character with a great name and cosmetics that tied them together. I remember seeing some of the most iconic cosplays like Luffy from One Piece, Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, even looking at original characters where they mixed and matched cosmetic items to create something unique. You had pets, which another fantastic system. You could give your pets command like sit or speak, equip them with a cute little accessory like a hat or a bow. There were also some convenience items you could attach to the pets like auto HP, MP while you're grinding, or having them pick up items and mesos while you grinded, instead of walking around like a beggar for loot. I remember loving the baby dragon when it released only because it was one of the first pets to have like a transformation. Increase the closeness of the pet by giving it commands, feeding it food, or even pay for more NX to increase the pet's closeness by a greater amount. And when you turned it into an adult dragon, it had a chance to turn into a red, blue, black, and I think green dragon. And lastly, convenience items like teleport rocks. Personally speaking, sometimes I may not have a lot of time to spend 30 minutes to go from one island to another. And if I want to spend my disposable income, dude, let me. Other things like ability point resets and skill point resets are totally fine. There were plenty of occasions I accidentally clicked the wrong stat or skill to increase because of my fat butterfingers. And honestly, for me, that stuff was harmless. It was like cool outfit, cool pet, move on. But for some of us, let's be honest, Classic also had some early seeds of something more dangerous. Items that indirectly affected power. And the biggest example of that is HP washing. Because HP washing wasn't just a strategy, it was a strategy that depended on cash shop AP resets. So even if you didn't wash for everything, the fact that the option existed created pressure. And that pressure turns into meta. So let me explain why this is such a big deal, especially for Classic. Back then, HP washing wasn't something every casual player was doing. A lot of people didn't even realize it was happening until later guides started spreading. But once it became the thing, you had 2 types of players. The players who were just playing, like myself, knowing full well I wouldn't reach the content where washing was necessary, and the players who were planning their character like a retirement fund. And that's where monetization gets messy, because the moment progression starts feeling like if you don't spend, you're doing it wrong, you lose what made Classic feel fair. And I'm gonna be real, when I was a kid, I didn't have disposable income to spend on AP resets every week, and as a dad and a husband, I can tell you my wife will beat me. We're talking about hundreds of dollars, and that was way back before inflation. Thankfully, they already addressed this issue as an unintended system that won't be present in Maplestory Classic. And we've kind of already seen this with the recent playtest. Mages at level 50 having over 1000 HP. I actually checked into a private server and I didn't get 1000 HP until like well over 100, 110. For those that don't know what HP washing is, it was this weird loophole in the formula, and I might get exhausted explaining this, so bear with me. Basically, people were able to put points into int to increase MP, because the higher int you had, the more MP you would get when you leveled up, and then AP points were put into MP, and then you reset so you can put the MP into HP, and that allowed you to do some end game content. And some classes needed this, like assassins and archers, because they had no mitigation. So HP washing is by far the loudest example, but it's not the only one. You also had gacha style stuff. Gachapon tickets were basically the early version of a pay for a roll, the virtual slot machine. I seriously wonder how many people got addicted to gambling right after playing Maplestory. And while classic players remember it as fun, it also introduced the idea that real money could shortcut gear or mesos. Like the famous elemental wands that were mage's best in slot weapon and made literally every other weapon useless. And then you've got EXP boosters. So old school Maple had times where EXP coupons were a must have. And that kind of item matters because it changes the grind itself. I remember doing my chores, saving a few dollars just to go get an NX gift card from 7-Eleven, which was like an hour away, begging my mom to take me just to spend it on a double EXP coupon to stack it with a double EXP event. So when people say just make the cash shop cosmetic, this is what they're referring to. They're not upset for Nexon trying to make money, they're pissed progression will be for sale. So what does a healthy classic monetization model look like? In my opinion, it's simple. If it doesn't touch progression, I don't mind it. If it touches progression, it becomes a problem. So the safe zone is cosmetics, outfits, hair, eyes, chairs, whatever. Convenience items, pets, teleport rocks, inventory expansions, cool. Account services, name change, character slots, maybe world transfer type stuff. None of that makes your character stronger. It just makes your experience while playing the game smoother or your character cooler. And classic players are usually fine with that because you still have to earn everything that matters. Now here's the part that worries me. Even if Nexon doesn't intend for classic to be a pay to win, there are a few choices that can accidentally blur the line. Like Scissors of Karma, for example. Being able to trade untradeable equipment like Z-Helms, which was basically the best in slot item starting at level 50 for basically the rest of the game. I'm hoping they change this item entirely, but I'll talk about it more in another video. They had a Hammer NX item that would increase the amount of upgrade slots a gear contained by 2. I think this kind of started as an innocent idea, being that if someone had failed a few scrolls, you can spend money to kind of bring it back from being garbage, but this turned into a necessity for anything above average, a weapon or an item like a brown bandana, a brown work glove, resulting in a higher power than average if you spent the cash on it. And lastly, the most impactful items like Chaos Scrolls and White Scrolls, they were only available from the Gacha system that completely changed the meta for scrolling for power. And surprisingly enough, a lot of people don't want them, and I'll explain why. And so Chaos Scrolls had a chance to change a stat on a piece of gear from -5 to +5 at random, and it has a chance to blow up, while a White Scroll preserved an upgrade slot if failed. And if I remember correctly, you could use them together. Using Dark Scrolls still had a chance to blow up the item, but imagine being able to pass all 10% on an item, sure, a lot of money, but you'd be able to make an absolute perfect god rolled equip based off how much money you spent. Now normally I'd say they have their advantages, white scroll being the safest option and chaos scrolls being the most rewarding but dangerous. They were pretty sought after by anyone that could afford them, as rare as they were, but they were also expensive, so even if you had no intended purposes to use them, you'd gain a lot of mesos just selling them. And trust me, the whales are already out there ready for classic. So let's get to the point. Being able to spend in real life money to gain a clear advantage, whether it was being used or sold, I don't think the scrolls are the problem. I think one paywall source was the problem. Yeah, I don't disagree some of these items are OP, but let's be honest, if they came up with a system that allowed us to get the same items free to play, it would hurt a lot less. For example, bosses could drop gachapon tickets, or even let's say scrap tickets that when combined they create a ticket, or events. I think there's a Maple World server that has a system where you can trade in useless scrolls, like defense scrolls, for a currency to trade in for other scrolls. Something like that. Anything, some other way is better than swiping my credit card. Because the classic community is different. I'm not just looking for nostalgia, I'm looking for a server where effort matters more than spending. Otherwise, I could stick to a private server where everything is free. And if Classic ever starts feeling like my wallet decides my character, I wouldn't be surprised if people go back to private servers. Probably to a Maplestory Classic private server. To be fair, I truly do not expect to see anything cash shop related information until like after a release date, and that's just to kind of create hype for it. But I would say, here are the signals that matter, and I'm definitely going to be referencing this video in the future. Is the cash shop mostly cosmetics and convenience items? Things like VIP travel tickets are fine. Are any progression systems tied to NX? This could be in the form of money bags or 2x EXP or drop coupons. Are there any must-buy items to keep up? Because remember, Nexon has already said that there is a modernized classic experience, and modern has a lot of pay-to-win aspects. So the question isn't whether it changes, the question is whether it changes in a way that respects classic players. So yeah, classic monetization isn't about no cash shop, give me a subscription model, because guys, it's not happening. But it's about where the line is. Cosmetics and convenience items, cool. Selling the grind, that's where it falls apart. And as we get closer to the closed online test and more announcements, hopefully I'm able to get in and get more coverage for you guys, but this is one of the biggest things I'll be watching. Drop a comment your favorite cosmetics or your pet, and what's the one cash up item that would instantly make you worry. And don't forget to subscribe and like. I'll see you guys in the next one.